What's the key? How did you grow to a 7 figures? Give me the secret sauce. What's the secret sauce?
I think one of the reasons why marketing agencies get such a bad name is because...
So you've got the exit. Now you have all the free time in the world. Isn't that like a problem?
If you run something on Facebook or Instagram, you have to spend a minimum of...
You weren't focused on how to generate leads for marketing agencies. You were focused on how to generate leads for...
I didn't actually have a goal. I never had a goal. My vision was to...
All right, boys and girls, we are in the lab here with Mr. Brandon Yu. Met Brandon at Men's Leadership Group at church, and Brandon's got a great story. He built and exited at a high 7-figure benchmark his marketing agency. So he built a 7-figure agency, sold that puppy, and now is just living the good life, relaxing. And well, maybe not. We'll tell you what he's working on later in the episode. But I want to talk and explore what it takes to grow and sell a 7-figure agency.
Yeah.
Brandon, what's up?
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm kicking it, buddy. Really glad to be back here. So let's get right into it. What's the key? How did you sell? How did you grow to a 7 figures? Give me the secret sauce. What's the secret sauce?
I wish there was secret sauce, Mark. The podcast would be over in a minute. There is no secret sauce. I think as an entrepreneur, whether it's an agency, whether it's any business, I think you have to, Hormozi talks about this, is you have to be consistent in doing the work, whether that's boring work, whether that's trying new things. So I'm not going to say it's all in the boring work, but you just have to be consistent. I think that's the key.
Well, in talking to you, and I was actually speaking to another agency owner last night, one of the things that seems consistent in growing and selling a marketing agency is focusing on a specific niche.
Yeah.
What is the specific business niche that you serve? So tell me, what is this specific business niche that you served before your exit?
Very good question. So I focused on local kind of lead gen services for spas and med spas across the country. I actually had that experience in my first business. So the marketing agency was the second business that I started and sold. First business, I actually started a wellness business locally in the DC area. We grew that to 3 locations. And how I got into the marketing agency space was I paid thousands and thousands of dollars and wasted thousands and thousands of dollars working with marketing agencies to generate new leads for that wellness business. And at some point I was like, this can't be it, right? Like I'm spending thousands a month. I'm not making thousands back in return. There has to be a better way. And that's actually what got me to start learning marketing more so myself for that business. I kind of cracked the code for that business and was able to successfully sell that business in 2019.
What was that code that you cracked? You're paying way too much for leads, having a hard time bringing them in. What was like the magic sauce that was bringing the leads in and giving you a good return on ad spend?
So obviously I've owned a marketing agency. We know a lot of people that own marketing agencies. And so I think one of the reasons why marketing agencies get such a bad name is because it's a low barrier to entry as an entrepreneur. Anyone can start a marketing agency, right? And so I preface that with that statement because I think for the marketing agencies that I worked with at the time and that I had hired and put my faith in to grow my local business because I wanted to focus on everything else in the business, I realized those weren't the best marketing agencies. It was a very cookie cutter approach. It was a set it and forget it. It was this is the cost per lead that is average, right? And as my wife will tell you, I always have a high standard for everything. And I always think, starting with myself, things can be better, whether that's personally, fitness, whatever, right? And it's a curse too. And so when I questioned all these things, I'm like, there has to be a better way. So how did I crack the code? A lot of trial and error, but also a lot of kind of, when I look at media buying, and in my last agency, I didn't do the media buying, but like our team and our concept was, how do we get better results than what we're currently performing or how we're currently performing? And that's constantly testing new messaging, new hooks, new creatives, but then also having the data feedback to get that information to make sure that we're just not throwing, excuse my French, shit at the wall saying, oh, I think this creative will work. And then the next month doing that 5 times over again, but actually taking a look, okay, this was our best performing creative, and I'm going into the weeds here. the last 3 months, let's create more like this to see if we can replicate more and more success.
As far as the tech stack goes, you're running that through Facebook ads?
So we're running Facebook and Instagram ads.
Okay.
And then for my last marketing agency, I mean, we had 60 plus employees on our staff. So, we had project management software like ClickUp and stuff. And so we actually had KPI dashboards that would real-time feed information back from Facebook and all of our conversion metrics to these dashboards that show, what are the best performing creatives across all of the locations that we're working with? What are the best performing copy? What are the best performing hooks? And that data allowed us to just be better, to dive deeper into the niche that we are specialized in, because it's very hard to do that if you let's say work with a gym, then you work with a med spa, then you work with a plumber, then you work with HVAC. Like you're spreading your team and yourself too thin to try to really be a specialist in one niche or industry.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. The challenge with that is when you're focused on one specific niche in your marketing agency, all the data that comes in can be shared amongst all of the other customers and clients, because now okay, this sort of messaging works.
Exactly.
This is the main pain point. If you're working for different sorts of industries, you have to figure that out every time you bring on a new customer, and that probably increases your expense, increases the return on ad spend, or decreases the return on ad spend, and decreases your result.
And it leads to, I don't like using the word wasted, but a lot of wasted spend as well. So for example, think about it this way. For those that are watching or have some experience in digital advertising, if you run something on Facebook or Instagram, you have to spend a minimum of $500 to $1,000 to make sure that the data that you're seeing is valid, right? You can't just launch an ad and tomorrow turn it off because you got a high cost per click or a high CPL, right? But if you only do that with one client, so let's say you're a plumber and you come to me and say, yeah, I'll run your ad. And I come up with that one hook or one messaging or one offer. And I'm like, I'm going to run that for Mark. I have to spend $1,000 of Mark's money to see if this works or not. And if it doesn't work, then I have to spend another $1,000 for the next test, etc. Well, if I have 20 plumbers and Mark is just one of them, but I have an idea for a hook, I can run that for all 20 clients, and very quickly, as they spend $100 each, see how it's performing globally to say, oh, this is a loser already. Let's roll out a new test.
Right. Well, that saves all of your clients money.
Exactly.
Because they're getting their return much more quickly.
Exactly. And for the agency, my agency, that's all we focused on was customer experience and results. I think I told you in conversation, we grew our agency to over, 280,000 a month in revenue, 150, 60-ish clients. We didn't have run any marketing ourselves.
Right. Because you really focused on that one client and then
we just got referrals.
Right. Just got referrals, which to me is kind of funny because I think, you should practice what you preach. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a marketing agency. I'm an expert in getting in new leads. And how do you get leads? Oh, it's just all referral based.
Yeah.
Because typically and I actually suffer this to an extent when people say, well, how do you get new customers? Like, oh, well, it's referrals that's kind of like a cop out, you know, in a way, because you don't have like, a repeatable source of new leads coming in for your sales team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. I think in our agency, we were blessed, and it's God's doing, but we were blessed that we didn't need to even explore that option.
Well, and
because of the volume that was coming in, right?
Well, and to your point, and the more I think about this, the more it makes sense. To your point, you weren't focused on how to generate leads for marketing agencies. You were focused on how to generate leads for Cool Sculpting and MedSpa.
Yeah.
So, if you started focusing on the marketing, it kind of defeats the entire concept and the entire reason why your agency was successful.
Yeah.
And so all the leads that were coming in, you're running the Facebook and the Instagram ads, they're all coming through. They're coming through high level at the time you're building out a high level snapshot.
Yep.
What were the keys? What are the key components when you're building out that high level snapshot?
Yeah, I think for building out a high level snapshot, and high level has changed so much even when I first started my agency. I remember in 2020 when I was evaluating between high level and GHL or in ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
I had a question, and it was literally a Saturday morning, and I wrote in the Facebook group, and Sean Clark immediately responds, and he gets on a Zoom call with me on a Saturday morning, right? And that's just the type of guy he is. We've built out the tip, like, I wouldn't say it was anything special. I think we just executed it well, right? Speed to lead, number one. So is our messaging going out, and is it good enough to engage the lead? And then I had a call center. Like, we had our own in-house call center. I said I had 60 plus employees. In the call center alone, like, we probably had 35, 40. At our peak, we had 80 employees with, 50 plus call center agents.
And those were calling the leads for people that were saying, hey, I saw your ad about the med spa in Miami, Florida. I'd like more information.
And they would actually book the appointment for that spa in Miami. Yep.
Gotcha. So all the med spa owner needs to do is just
execute the consultation and sell the package.
Yeah. That's pretty, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So we did everything on the front end to get the client in the door.
Okay. Good deal. So we built that out, scaled that out, all referrals. I mean, it's so amazing. How did you get to the sell point, right? So you built it out, you got the tech stack, focusing on the results, building out that, all the funnels. How did you find the seller or the buyer for the company?
So the buyer we found through a business broker. So
how did you know you wanted to sell? Why?
And I was going to get, so I think it's more about why I decided to sell as opposed to the selling process in itself. And I think for me, I started the company in 2020, literally in June. So like middle of COVID. Most med spas were actually closed down, and some states were just opening up, although Florida never really closed down. Started that. I didn't actually have a goal. When a lot of agency owners, they start and like, I want to hit the 10K mark, then I want to hit the 50K mark a month, and then I want to hit the 100K a month mark. I never had a goal. My vision was to redefine the marketing agency experience, thus the name of our agency, Redefined Growth Marketing. And so me and the team, as we hired throughout the years of growth of our agency, that's all we focused on. It wasn't about revenue. We reported on revenue because that is the report card for the health of a business. So all I cared about was that success that the client had. How did I get to wanting to sell? I think when I got to the business it's essentially 2.5, right? I have a business coach myself. I believe in, as I mentioned earlier on this podcast, of growth and wanting to be better. And what I always say about entrepreneurship, no matter what business you're in, as an entrepreneur, you have to be fully obsessed to go far, right? If you look at any successful entrepreneur, even Elon Musk today, right? Like if you look, he works crazy hours, he has this vision, he's like the mad scientist. And I believe like you have to have that season in life to like really be a good entrepreneur. I wasn't forcing myself to do that. That was just natural for me because of my passion. But when you're go ahead.
By the way, I kind of agree with you. You have to have that level of intensity and that madness, that obsession. That impacts family life to an extent. When you married your wife, did she know that that's where you wanted to go? Did she have that same vision?
When I married my wife, yes, I was already an entrepreneur.
Okay, so she knew, yeah.
When I first started dating my wife, I was a W-2 employee making high six figures as a sales rep for a healthcare IT company. Cushy job, very cushy job. So when we first started dating, I was doing that. Mid-dating, probably a year and a half in, I said, hey, I'm going to leave my cushy job and I'm going to start my own business. And that was Thrive Cryo Studio, the wellness business. And I remember exactly, we were at a winery celebrating a friend's birthday and she starts bawling.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And it was because her dad was an entrepreneur and he wasn't around a lot. He sacrificed family time for his business and his entrepreneurship journey. And she basically started crying because I think it brought back memories, but also what could it mean? Would I be around and stuff? And so to go off on this tangent, one, I have the most supportive wife ever, right? And so not only did I sacrifice a lot of weekends and sleepless nights and stuff, she did as well. But by the time we got married, I was in the process of selling my first business. And so after we got married, she knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. And you know, in her vow, she even said she can't keep up with the many ideas that I do have, but she's been so supportive along the way.
I've been with my wife 17 years now, and it's only 5 years ago that I decided I was going to be an entrepreneur and kind of carve my own path and not rely on a paycheck anymore. And that's definitely been a challenge in a lot of ways, like you said. You know, she really feels like that lack of security by not having a consistent paycheck. You know, and regardless, you know, the income I've been making, it's definitely less than I was making as an employee, as a W-2 employee, but it's been consistent. It's never been like, oh crap, we're not gonna be able to pay the bills, but she's still like, without that paycheck coming in, it's kind of a
but I also think, you know, entrepreneurship is kind of like, and we're in this crypto bull run right now, it's kind of like crypto, right? Where you put some time in and you're working and you're chipping away at any moment. And I'll go back to the sale of my business. At any moment, you can have this X% growth that is exponential that you will never get working for someone else.
Right. Well, and honestly, in at least in the phase of the business that I'm in, and you know this, I'm working on several different projects for several different types of businesses. And I recognize that that's maybe an opportunity or an issue with that model of owning a marketing agency, which that could be another conversation. It's exactly where my life takes me. But at least where I'm at is I want to work with high quality people, cool projects, successful businesses where I think that I can provide value, and then find, okay, wow, with this particular person, with this particular type of business model, I just was able to, I had the magic touch. And then I can go out and I can find that type of business, that type of person, say, hey, I did this for Brandon. I know exactly how we can replicate it for you too.
Yep. And that's what we did, right? So that's going back to the question that you had, which was finding the micro niche, getting success, replicating that. And that's how you kind of create this flywheel effect for your business. Right. Yeah.
And just to kind of flesh that out a little bit more, I think that, you know, especially when your business is new and you're trying to find your bearings, you're trying to get to that 7-figure mark, it does require saying yes to more opportunities. But throughout that process of saying yes, it's also kind of taught me the types of businesses and the people I need to say no to. Mm-hmm. Not because I don't like them or they're not great people, just because they're not, there's a misalignment.
Yeah. And I went through that process too, right? My first couple of months. And I think that's the evolution of growth as an entrepreneur in business, right? And so that's why, going back to the first point, there's no secret sauce. It's just consistency, learning, recalibrating, consistency in that work over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So to answer your question though, so you know, we grew this agency. I had the business coach. And what I was getting to is, like, sometimes as the entrepreneur, when you're in the weeds, or when you're in this tall grass, as I like to say, it's tough to see above the tall grass. And what the coach realized she could hear in some of in my voice, even on our weekly calls, is like, I went from being passionate to not as passionate, just in the tone of my voice. And and like, as I explained it in hindsight, I'm a builder, and Tony Robbins talks about having 3 different types of entrepreneurs. There's the kind of the manager integrator, right? Like, so that's like the head coach of a basketball team. You have the true entrepreneur, like, I'm going to put money in. How much money am I getting out? So like that value of, you know, investment versus return. But then there's the artist, and the artist is the type of entrepreneur that likes the craft, right? Like, so Steph Curry is an artist compared to Steve Kerr, who's the coach, and then the owner is the entrepreneur, right? And what I've realized is I'm the type that's an artist, and I like building stuff. And for my business, what I enjoyed so much of getting results and tracking results and seeing client success, my role had changed so much in that 2.5 years. Because I went from me and 2 employees to me and 80 employees at the top, that it was not me doing what I enjoyed. It was more annual reviews and check-ins with my managers and, putting out all these fires. And that wasn't as fun to me. And so that on the business side, ultimately with us expecting our first child, said, okay, I think this is a good time for me to decide to sell. And so I explored that option. And I believe that everything happens for a reason, where God has a plan, and it just so happened that we were able to find a buyer, and we went through due diligence and closed within 30 or 45 days.
So you grew it to a certain point and said, okay, this is good. I achieved this. I'm happy with this, but I'm not having fun anymore. Because I also think there's a part where there's just, when you're building a business, there's going to be certain stuff that you just don't enjoy doing. That
Exactly.
You just have to, you know, it's kind of like discipline equals freedom, Jocko Willing type of perspective. But I could kind of see that when you hit a certain point, you also can become so attached to that. I was talking to a buddy yesterday who was obsessed with his business. He went in this year. He said, I want to make $20 million in my newsletter business this year. That's my goal. But he felt other things that just weren't aligning.
Yep.
Exactly. And so I just talked to him last night. I haven't talked to him for 2 months. Talked to him last night. He's like, sold the business, moved to North Carolina, changed churches, all this stuff. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
A lot's happened in 8 weeks, dude. But that's, it wasn't necessarily because he wasn't having fun anymore. It was because he had just gotten maybe too close to it. Like you said, he was in the grass.
And sometimes it's like, for the company, for the betterment of the company and the clients as well, there maybe needs to be a different voice. I mean, how many times have we seen in sports a coach takes a team so far to the playoffs every year after year after year, but can never get over that hump? A new coach comes in and the next year they go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? Or they go to the championship. So I think there's some of that as well. But, now looking back at my history, my first business, I, started and sold within, grew and scaled in 3 years. And then the same thing, like now I'm more honed in and self-aware of myself, where now when it reaches that point, I'll assign a new CEO or something, or I'll assign, someone quicker so that I can still be that visionary and kind of go off in different areas that still excite me in a business. So that's kind of what I hope to do from my learnings in past businesses to apply to a new business. I think coaching, and this might be an unpopular belief, I think coaching is a lot like counseling, it's like counseling, right? It's helping you find the answer for yourself, not necessarily them giving you an answer, right? Coaching isn't like a cheat code where it's like, oh, you're facing this struggle, Brandon, in your business. This is exactly what you need to do. Boom, boom, boom. And that's taken care of. The coach is really just a sounding board that over time gets to know you and your business to give you that outsider's perspective. So I gave that, and I act as a coach now to some small businesses and some growing businesses as well. But I gave the example of this being in tall grass. If you're in this maze, a cornfield, right? And you have these tall corn stalks and you're trying to get out of there. When you're in it, you can't see the best and quickest way out.
Right.
But the coach is up there 50 feet in the air on a ladder. And that coach can say, Brandon, if you literally go to your right 5 feet, you'll be out of this maze. Whereas it could have taken me, I need to go left, and then I need a zig, and then I need a zag. I could have been in there for hours. So the coach gives you more clarity in a direction, and sometimes that's the best, that they don't know as much, because that might be the most enlightening kind of path that you need to take.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny too. It's sometimes, I'll work with a client or a prospect or something like that. I immediately can see problems within what they're doing. Let's say on YouTube, for example, like, oh, it's clear this is where you're misaligned on YouTube. But sometimes I can't see my own blind spot, because
exactly.
I'm too close to it.
And it's like humans are used to they're creatures of habit. So if they were taught one way and again, I don't know much about YouTube uploading videos or anything, but it's like if they were taught one way to upload it and label it or title it or whatever, and they do that 5, 10, 15 times, they just think that's the norm.
Yeah. Right. Well, to be a little bit more specific, YouTube rewards consistency, and not just consistency in the uploading and all that, but consistency in the pain point, in the problem that you're solving.
Yeah.
You know, if I subscribe to your YouTube channel for marketing advice, and then the next week you're talking about med spas, it's like
it's a mixed channel. There's no specialty.
Exactly. And this is the same issue I have with my marketing agency to an extent. I don't have a specific specialty, and I have the same kind of issue with YouTube. And a part of it, I think, is because I'm just interested in so many different things.
Yeah.
And maybe I suffer from that shiny object syndrome that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, is like, well, I like this, but I like this too. And I like that. That's also one of the curses of having a podcast like this, when I'm bringing on, these people with $10 million, $20 million, $50 million businesses. I'm like, well, that seems like a great business. Talking to a guy yesterday, he's like, well, the newsletters are where it's at. So you have the attribution and the tracking. And Mark was like, well, maybe I need to get focused on the newsletters now, right?
Yeah.
But I also like podcasting. I also like YouTube. So, but again, when I go into a YouTube channel and I say, oh, well, the problem, brother, is that YouTube doesn't know who to show your videos to, because you're switching up your topic every week.
Yeah, the algorithms are like, who does this go to? Like you said, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, cool. So you've got the exit. Now you have all the free time in the world. Isn't that like a problem? Because now you have nothing to do, especially for someone like you, Brandon, who, like you mentioned, become obsessive over a particular topic and process. What next?
Yeah. No, very good question. I think I'm definitely not just sitting on the couch watching TV, first of all. I think as entrepreneurs, and as you're wired with different ideas, like you'll always find yourself in different things. And so actually one of the things that my coach walked me through was, after the sale of the business, is what to do next. And first, we had our first child 2 months after I sold. So I was trying to be as present, and still am trying to be as present as possible with her and now our new daughter. But two, what my coach said is, I don't want you to go back into business for at least 90 days. Because your mind's going to be wired in a certain way to jump back in and do the same thing that you've been doing, and the same processes, and boom, boom, boom. That might get you to where you are now, which was a little burnt out and like not having fun, etc. She said, instead, I want you to create a list, which is a list of must-haves, nice-to-haves, and deal breakers. And I want you to write out what is, and we've read the book, Your Future Self Now. What are the must-haves that this next business opportunity or the next thing you jump in, what must it have? What are the nice-to-haves? And what are the deal breakers? And a deal breaker could be something as simple as, I don't want to commute to an office. And so if it hits everything on the must-haves and nice-to-haves, but I have to go into the office, it's just not you refer back to this list when you're sound of mind, right? You're like free of all other pressures and stressors or whatever. So create this list first. So I did that, and during this time as well, I coach other business owners, I coach other agency owners. So I've done that, and I have passion in talking about business all the time, and I have passion in helping others. So that's been fun. I've dabbled in other investments. And then I partnered actually with another agency owner who sold his business. And we were going to launch something. But then I came across an opportunity that really checked off all my lists. And so I decided to kind of pursue that. And so we're in the process of rolling that out, and hopefully should be launched by the end of December, early January.
Okay, so that's coming to I don't want to get way off topic, but as we're kind of like winding down this podcast, spent the first half talking a lot about how to grow, scale, exit your marketing agency. What are some key components, some really important factors? I think that's good. Talked a little about what's next and some of the psychological stuff. But I want to create something for you. We'll consider it a gift. Something you can look back on in a few years and been like, wow, that's what Brandon was thinking in that moment.
Yeah.
So you are getting prepared to launch a e-commerce brand for skincare.
Correct.
E-commerce brand. Quickly, what is the vision for that? Where is that brand going to be in 10 years?
This brand is going to be an industry disruptor. And we're going to look back at this brand and this technology in 10 years and be like, wow, this was the start of something new in skincare. I have a lot of detailed visions. So like, I'm not about the money per se, but I think money is the scoreboard for anything in business. And so this brand is going to exit for more than 500 million. I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to fail a lot. But this will be a household name, much like something like Proactive has been household name for acne since I was in high school and had acne. I'm going to be interviewed on stage by Tony Robbins, as I told my coach, because she's a descendant of Tony Robbins, and it's going to change lives. Like, I think part of what I've done in my entrepreneurship is when I had my wellness business, it was helping people with their health or to reduce pain or to improve themselves from an athletic recovery perspective. Because we were one of the first to do whole body cryotherapy, infrared sauna. We were actually the first brick and mortar in the DC area to do it. In my marketing agency, it wasn't about getting leads. It was about helping small business owners who got into the business of opening a spa or a med spa. They had a passion for beauty. They had a passion as an esthetician. They didn't know anything about marketing or sales for the most part, right? There's obviously outliers. So helping them go from breaking even to excelling in their business. And for me, as we start looking at the micro, our product that we initially launched called Vanish Skincare is geared towards acne, because I don't believe that there has been innovation in products, because when I go to Target today, it's the same options that I had when I was in high school, and I'm old, Mark. But this brand is not about making the money. It's about changing lives and giving people confidence back and giving them a treatment without compromise.
Highly competitive market.
Yeah.
Highly competitive. How do you break through?
I don't know.
Kylie Jenner? You're going to get Kylie Jenner on board? Like, how do you break through into skincare? And by the way, it's my understanding you're going e-com. You're not going brick and mortar. You're not trying to get distribution in Walmart and Target.
Not yet.
Okay, but maybe at some point that's it. How are you going to make your first sale? Let me ask you that.
That's going to be through either influencers, paid ads. We've gone through in this past year a lot of testing, and we've seen some amazing results. And not only amazing results, but results with comments on top of that. Like, not only did it cure my acne or treat my acne, but it did so without irritating my skin and did so without causing, dry skin or extra redness. And so we have individuals that want to sing our praises already. And I'm saying, take your foot off the gas pedal, because when you post this on social media, they have nowhere to buy it right now. Right? Because I don't have the inventory yet, right? We're still in production. And I think, to answer your question of how do I penetrate the market, it goes back to, yes, I have to be a marketing machine, but this marketing machine means nothing if our product sucks.
Right.
And so I have focused on product quality, results, feedback. Like, I care about every result or every feedback that we received from our testers to try to make the biggest bet in the best product. And being fully transparent, the product that we launch with, while it's been vetted a lot, there's going to be feedback that we receive from that where we will continue to iterate it as well.
Right. What's your biggest fear with the launch?
It's a good question. I hope this doesn't sound cocky. I don't really have a fear. And I can look you straight in the eye and say, like, I have this vision of how I'm going to win and that I am going to win. I would say the biggest fear that I may have is being new to e-commerce and managing aspects of an e-commerce business that I'm not used to compared to a marketing agency or to a brick and mortar. For example, cash flow. I have to front all the money for packaging, for product, for all of this prior to making a sale. Then I start making sale. How soon do I put in my next order? And how big is that next order? Because if I don't have product, I can't sell. And if I can't sell, I'm not making money. And if the product is good, but people can't buy it, then the product sucks.
Right. But that could be a positive too. Like it's so hot, it's sold out. But that's the challenge with that's unbelievable. The sourcing, the distribution.
So that's kind of the challenge. Like I'll give you a great example. I wake up at 5 a.m. today. I look at my phone, which as entrepreneurs and individuals in general, do not look at your phone when you first wake up. And I see a message from the manufacturer that has manufactured the box, the actual carton for my product. I ordered this 5 months ago, paid the money for it. We got some of the shipment from China to the Czech Republic where my manufacturing facility is by air so that we can start production on samples and stuff quickly. The rest is shipped by sea. That typically takes 6-ish weeks. So I messaged the packaging manufacturer yesterday. I said, hey, what's the status on the ETA on when my manufacturing facility will receive it? Because it should be any day now. And just for those of you that don't know, like they ship literally in big containers on sea. Then it has to go through customs whatever port it lands in. Then it takes a couple more days from the port to your final destination. Sea takes a lot longer than air, obviously. I get this message that I see at 5 a.m. this morning saying there was a mess up or a mix up and all of the packaging material is still in a warehouse in China. So I see this and I'm like, okay, it takes time or money, right, to get it there. And we're expecting to launch at the end of December. My manufacturing facility needs this packaging to start manufacturing in quantities, max quantities. What are we going to do? Luckily, we figured something out. The manufacturer is going to pay for air shipment, and it's going to be very expensive for them, and they'll probably lose money on this order. But they're going to handle it.
Well, good for them to be, to exactly. Men and women of honor, I guess.
But these are things that happen, right? And I told my wife when she woke up this morning, she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and it's just like, as an entrepreneur, you have to have thick skin, and as an entrepreneur, like my friend. And Gil, I'll give you a shout out if you watch this on YouTube, is he told me back in our agency days, being an entrepreneur, especially in a marketing agency, is like being in a boxing ring with this monster. And this monster every day is just throwing punches at you. Some days it's just a little like right hook, a little left hook, and that's like the consistent, jab here, jab there. Some days they get you with a big like blow, a big knockdown blow. As an entrepreneur, you just have to keep getting up and know that if you keep showing up, you'll beat this monster. And so that's just the mentality that I approach it with.
Well, I'm hoping all the listeners and viewers out there are not afraid of the monster. Go fight the monster. Because honestly, I believe that we're moving into an era of humanity where everyone is going to need to be responsible for their own income. I think we're going to phase out of the employee-employer type of economy that we have now, and I think a big part of that is good because of AI and robotics and technology. I just think it's changed the dynamic of the workplace.
And not even AI and robotics, but it's like there's no easier way to make money online than today. All you need is a laptop and Wi-Fi.
Sure.
You could be, that's all you need, and you can make hundreds of thousands, if not millions, by just those two things.
You can be an expert on any topic in the world just with YouTube.
Yeah.
Just with the internet, which don't get me started on the educational system, but the world has changed dramatically. I think people are starting to figure it out, but having thick skin, waking up early, and like I said, very early into this conversation, or maybe it was even before, I don't know exactly the life that my future self is living. But I know that there's certain factors, there's certain features, there's certain characteristics that must be in place in order to reach that.
Yeah.
And so by adapting those characteristics, by eliminating characteristics that I know are not going to be a fit, I feel like that's going to be the route to find the lane.
And I agree. I believe in this phrase, and I've heard it from Jesse Itzler, but I'm sure others have said it as well, which is make your own luck. And I believe if you put things out there in the universe, you make your own luck and things happen around you. The energy happens around you for that, right? Now, I just outlaid a very serious vision that I have for my skincare brand that I'm about to launch. Whether it hits that or not, I don't know. I don't have control, like you said, of my future. So I also trust, and I think that's what helps me a lot, is I trust in God's plan for me. Maybe he's taking me down this path to teach me something, and maybe it fails miserably. I don't know. Or maybe it does hit the goals, we achieve the goals that I have for it, and there's a reason why that happens as well. Maybe I can make a bigger impact in something else, or maybe I can help young entrepreneurs because I do enjoy coaching. I don't know what that looks like, but what I do know is if I do the right thing and I put in that consistent work, I can't lose, whether the business fails or it doesn't.
That's where and I'm totally with you there. That's where I don't think it's egotistical or cocky to say like, I'm gonna be okay. And I told this to my wife the other day, like like I said, I'm talking to all these, big executors, and I know every one of them, people have even said, hey, can I hire you to do this? And I'm like, I like being independent. I like doing my own thing. I can always get another job. Yeah. Like worst case scenario, all the skills, the tactics, the people, the connections, they're leading somewhere.
Yeah.
So even if things don't go great, like and that's again why I think it's important that people are taking control of their own destiny as after-hours entrepreneurs, side hustlers, business builders, because the skills that you learn there are going to make you irreplaceable.
Agreed.
In the marketplace.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, where can we find you? Where can we find more Brandon for coaching to follow your e-commerce journey?
Very good question. So as someone who has been marketing on social media and has helped other businesses grow on social media, I really don't have much of a social media presence, if I'm being honest. I don't update any of my social medias. I don't update my LinkedIn. I don't even know what the last job is that on my LinkedIn is. So if someone wants to find me, they can just shoot me an email. It's Brandon, Brandon, at bjyenterprise.com. That's just my email address. So hopefully I don't get too much spam coming to that email. But if there's anything that I can help with in anyone's entrepreneurial journey that's out there, I love talking about it. I'm passionate about it. My wife says I don't have any other hobbies. I don't watch TV. So in this free time, it's just been working out and thinking about, what I want to do next and different ideas and catching up with friends and family and doing that. So, but yeah, Brandon at bjyenterprise.com is where you can find me. I have an Instagram account. I don't even know what the handle is, so I don't want to throw that out there.
So I'm going to throw this out there, not as a hard sell, but something that I've noticed is pretty common in entrepreneurs, is you're so caught up in your business, you kind of like, the social media, the YouTube, that kind of takes the backside, but that stuff is important too.
Yeah.
I'm going to record an entire YouTube video on this. I just haven't gotten around to it this week because I got caught up with client work, but I've got a system that I think is pretty exciting for doing this. And I've rolled this out with a couple of clients now and it's gone great. I get my clients on a remote video call in our, we could do it locally too. And for anyone who's watching or interested, I ask questions that almost force you to tell a story, like who was the worst client you've ever had? Who's the best client you've ever had? What was your greatest fear growing up? All these different questions to kind of lead you to tell stories. And then all these stories can be turned into short form video. They can be turned into graphics. They go up on your social media. So I'll find like a 1 hour session lasts an entire month. But the other thing that I think is great, Brandon, is using a few different AI tools, we can turn all those videos into emails. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden you have a personal long form email drip campaign. So every time you meet someone, every time someone's interested in what you're doing, they click a button and now they're getting emails from you for life. It's not a newsletter. You're not writing it. Yeah. It's just personally founder driven stories that drive all the emails, and you can write them in any sort of way. Again, using AI. AI does it almost all completely automatically.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you do that too, right? Like when I first met you, I started getting emails from you. I'm guessing it's through and I complimented. I was like, this is amazing.
That's exactly how I set it up.
Yeah.
And then, you combine that with a digital business card. Every time I meet someone, scan my digital business card. Yeah. It's nice to meet you. Then they go through my email drip campaign, and some people unsubscribe, but some people are like, how did you do this? Can I steal this? And so that's been something I like doing too. Because I typically, I guess my niche is, if I had one, would be I like working with high performing business owners that are or would like to be more of the face of their business, mastermind leaders, consultants, things like that.
Yeah, and I think like in the business that you're in, if you're a coach, if you're a mastermind leader, I think it's important to have the face out there, because that's
you are the face, right?
You are the face, right? For me, I've never been one to show off. Like, it's just, and so for me, I don't know if it's a limiting belief or what, but like, I kind of just like doing things behind the scenes. And, a lot of my friends don't even know I started one business or two businesses or sold that, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know you did that. And it's just, I'm a simple guy. Like I dressed up for you today, Mark. My wife was like, "Oh, where are you going?" I was like, "Typically, I wear like white Hanes t-shirts and shorts. That's all."
My wife asked me that this morning too. She's like, "Where are you going this morning?" I was like, "Brandon, you coming over? What are you talking about?"
So yeah, I mean, but I do think, like you said as well, I think there's value in others people seeing. So, and maybe we can talk about this offline, but I've thought about, as I start this new business, documenting the journey.
Right.
This is what I'm going through. And people will see it and say, oh, this is easy or this is hard. I don't think it's hard, but it comes naturally to me, right? Like my sister's starting her own business and like she's getting caught up on like, where do I buy a domain name? And I'm like, come on, are you serious? Like if this is your struggle, but it kind of helped me realize a majority of the population don't know even where or how to start.
Right.
As simple as like a domain name, right? So, well, maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, it's just something I've been thinking that I just think I find the results are really good. It's easy to replicate, and AI just makes it so easy to do it. And again, I've got some pretty big clients. I've got a client who's got a mid 7-figure mastermind. He's got it. I love you, bro. This is why I'm working with your team for free to make this happen. But he's got an email sequence that's 2 weeks long. It's getting about 70 to 80% open rate on the emails.
That's a good open rate.
And he's getting the click-through rates are ranging around, let's say 5 to 7%. Really good. It goes for 2 weeks. Boom, that's it. And I'm like, it's such an obvious opportunity. And so I said, listen, I'm just going to help you guys. I offered to pay him. He's like, I don't know. We're going to do it for free because you need it. It's going to matter. And then again, if I can sit down with a business owner and ask just a few simple questions for an hour and a half, we get 15 questions answered. That's 15 emails.
Yeah.
That's 15 videos. That's your entire month of YouTube. That's your social media. It drives all the graphics. And then what's also cool, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is how every business owner, every company should have custom GPTs for their business and for all of your clients so that you can quickly have a sounding board with which to ask and answer questions within that specific context of that business.
That makes sense. It's personalized, right? Like I think everyone thinks of AI as just like at least that's how I thought about it a couple of years ago, is just like a general, like it's not specific enough, right? But I think that's this next level that we've hit.
I think this is going to be one of the most important things for businesses in the next several years is how quickly am I able to train an effective AI agent for my company?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Whether that's, as a marketing agency owner, hey, you upload your brand guide and various data and stuff like that. And then you have a sounding board with which to ask questions, to generate emails, to generate proposals, to respond to questions, frequently asked questions. I'm building that out for another client now too.
Nice.
He's getting tons of questions in a Facebook group and he just doesn't have the bandwidth to answer all the questions.
Exactly.
So I said, dude, we've probably got 50 to 100 long form masterclasses that you've put on. Let's upload all those transcripts, train an AI chatbot. We could spend an afternoon. You can bounce different questions, say, I don't like that question. We can kind of tweak it. And then all of a sudden we have an extra layer to your value stack. Why should you join our community? Well, you get this, plus you're also getting this AI chatbot that's been trained off of hundreds of hours of video and testimonials and training programs. Boom. So how quickly can we train these models is I think going to become something that's relevant moving forward, which again is why I think having podcast and video is great, because it's very easy to convert that into all these sorts of different mediums.
100%.
So,
Agree.
Anyway, tangent complete. Thanks for joining the show, Brandon.
Thanks
Y'all
for
make
having
sure
me,
you
Mark.
email my man here, and I'll see you at 100 million.
Yeah. There we go.